Today, Biden versus Trump. The two presidential candidates faced off in their first election debate. We speak to the director of Tbilisi Pride as Georgia's government signals sweeping curbs on LGBTQ rights.
What the violence in Kenya and Bolivia says about economic troubles for emerging markets.
And new details on the car Vladimir Putin gifted North Korea's Kim Jong-un.
It's Friday, June 28th. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes every weekday. I'm Jonah Green in New York.
And I'm Tara Oakes in Liverpool. The pair of men are the two oldest presidential candidates in US history. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump have faced off in their first debate of the 2024 election season. Biden delivered a shaky performance, fumbling his words when discussing how he'd raise taxes on billionaires to pay down debt and fund healthcare during the CNN presidential debate.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
By comparison, Trump appeared energetic as he battered Biden with a barrage of false attacks.
We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
The White House said Biden was suffering from a cold, but only after his lackluster performance. It was meant to be a strong showing to dampen voters' concerns about his age. Meanwhile, Trump showed unusual restraint, not interrupting Biden. But the two did endure 1.5 hours of finger-pointing on inflation, immigration, and the wars in Gaza and Ukraine. And they landed some personal insults as well, on their golf games.
He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards.
And by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag.
The U.S. Supreme Court has blocked Purdue Pharma's bankruptcy settlement. The plan would have shielded the wealthy Sackler family owners in exchange for paying up to $6 billion in lawsuits over their role in the nation's deadly opioid epidemic. In a separate ruling, the justices also permitted, for now, abortions to be performed in Idaho when pregnant women are facing medical emergencies.
Iranians are voting for their new president following the death of Ebrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash. They're choosing from a tightly controlled group of candidates who are loyal to the supreme leader in an election unlikely to bring any major policy changes. Voter turnout in Iran has plunged in recent years as political and social restrictions grate on a younger population. New Delhi Airport has been plunged into chaos after a roof collapsed under heavy rain and winds. At least one person has been killed, and flights from a domestic terminal are cancelled.
Bronny James has been selected by the LA Lakers in the second round of the NBA draft. That means that, yes, he and his dad, LeBron James, will be the first father-son duo to play in the league at the same time and on the same team. Adorable.
Georgia's parliament has given its initial approval to a set of bills containing sweeping curbs on LGBT rights. The package could outlaw pride events and public displays of the LGBT rainbow flag. The legislation would also ban non-heterosexual people from adopting children and prevent people from changing their gender on ID documents. It has to pass 2 more readings before becoming law. I spoke to the director of Tbilisi Pride, Tamaja Kelly, about what the bill could mean for the LGBT community in Georgia. Tamar, Where exactly has this legislation come from? What's the justification for it?
I would say the only justification for it is the elections that are coming up and the government wanting to stay in power. So the ruling party, the Georgian Dream, it has become more and more regressive, more and more anti-Western, and more pro-Russian. And just at the end of May, after huge protests, we had the foreign agent bill being passed, which is already going to impact organizations like Tbilisi Pride and other queer organizations, because now we have to fight for survival, and we have no idea how in September they're going to enforce this legislation.
And you're in Tbilisi right now, and as you were saying, many people are feeling like they have to flee. How does it feel to be there right now?
It is very scary, actually, and we have had attacks on our office already twice. Our office was vandalized twice, and activists around me have been attacked physically. Unfortunately, it's been almost every day that somebody gets physically beaten. Yeah, it feels quite scary, but also since the protests started, which united hundreds of thousands of Georgians against the foreign agent law, I've been feeling that I'm not just a minority, but actually I can be part of the majority if we manage to stand together for human rights and for Georgia's European path. Because it seems to me that now it's the crossroads for Georgia. I mean, I do have optimism that basically we can have unity and that together we can defeat the oligarch. And our motto actually for Georgia is that there is power in unity. So we just really have to believe in that.
The violence in Kenya and Bolivia this week is a reminder of what could happen when faltering economies push tough and unpopular austerity measures. In Kenya, it was deadly protests over tax hikes, which have since been rescinded. And in Bolivia, a failed coup amid the country's fading economic prospects. And so why are we seeing this rage bubble over now? Karen Strohecker is our chief correspondent for emerging markets.
We are just coming out of a multi-year, multi-crisis period. In 2020, we had COVID and all the fallout that led to shutdowns of many economies. Then we had Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which pushed up massively food and energy prices. And then we, of course, had global interest rates rising. What that has meant is that it became much, much more expensive for a lot of these economies to borrow money. Mm-hmm. And they had to spend a lot more on servicing their debt. And now we are at a record number of emerging markets who have to spend 10% or more of their tax revenue on debt servicing. And what that means is they're not in a position to really stock their hospitals or import pharmacies or equip their schools or spend it on the social spending that probably a lot of their population would like them to see.
So a lot of the anger is directed at the IMF and the reforms they want to see. So is the IMF asking for more than these countries can deliver?
Well, that is a very hot debate and one that we've had over the past decades. Mm-hmm. In the 1980s, the IMF was really quite harsh in their austerity demands. The common perception is that they're not quite so harsh anymore. Mm-hmm. But yes, they will demand reforms, and those reforms will be painful, and they come in exchange for IMF money. So it's a difficult one for the likes of Kenyan President Ruto mm-hmm. or other political leaders to navigate. How can they tread this line between getting the IMF money and sticking to a reform plan, but at the same time not risking social unrest or making sure that the population is on board with the changes that need to be done?
And finally, some updates on the must-have car of the summer for the discerning anti-Western leader. Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un cruised around Pyongyang last week in a Russian-made Aurus limousine to showcase their strengthened alliance. The luxury sedan was intended to epitomize Russia's domestic prowess and reduce dependence on imported technologies and goods. But customs records show that the company that builds it uses millions of dollars in imported parts, many arriving in Russia from what Kim has described as his country's primary foe, South Korea. The imports point to Russia's ongoing reliance on Western technology as it seeks to navigate attempts to cut it off from global supply chains as punishment for its invasion of Ukraine. That's it for your Friday update. We'll be back on Monday with our daily headline show. And tune in on Saturday for a special episode deep diving into France's unexpected snap election. Voting starts on Sunday. To make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe on your favourite podcast player or download the Reuters app.